Welcome to the Nick and Matt Show. Bringing the player interviews you want to hear and the hot topics you want to discuss. Streaming live on the Foundation Podcast YouTube channel, here's Nick and Matt.
Nick, how's it going, man? It's funny.
What's up?
It's funny, we're laughing because for our normal show, we don't normally repeat our intro like 5 times, but for this show, we've had technical difficulties, which means we haven't streamed this live, or we've tried to, like 5 times. So we've asked each other 5 times how the other person is doing.
Well, you see, there's 5 of us on the show tonight. So we figured we needed to record 5 different intros to make sure that every single guest gets their own whole intro show now. No, I'm just kidding. We're having a ton of technical difficulties, but we are powering through.
Yeah. So for people that are watching posts are like, really, what's going on? As in, like, we don't care. We're just driving around listening. So just know that that's where we're coming from right in this moment. So we're kind of running into problems.
Yeah. Well, now that we have kind of situated ourselves through, and what we're going to do is post-record everything. So we're going to do all of our interviews. We are going to do everything as we normally would, just without the live audience for this week.
Right. And so who do we have, Nick, sitting in our green room right now, and you'd like to introduce?
In the virtual reality green room, we have Valerie Mandujano, who I actually had the pleasure of meeting last year, her family, and we've slowly just seen each other at tournaments, became friends. So we have Valerie as our first guest tonight. We have some awesome questions. She is a Texas native and just recently competed at the Vegas Challenge and then Memorial and also the Waco Annual Charity Open.
There she is on camera, right, for everybody to see. So how's it going, Valerie?
It's going good. How are you guys?
Good. Totally cool to meet
Very
you.
well.
I've never met you in person. Nick has, I think, right, Nick?
Yep, I have.
Awesome. So I'm just going to run through a few stats right now. 9th highest rated female disc golfer in the world, a 948 player rating. I know that dropped a little bit, so you might feel a little like, but that's pretty impressive. You averaged 954 at Waco. You finished 8th at Waco last year, 6th place this year. How do you feel about that? What do you feel about your performance this year as opposed to maybe last year, or even just how your expectations for this year?
To be honest, I feel like I'm starting off late than I did last year. I feel like I'm start, if that makes sense. I may have placed better this year, but I think my expectations are higher.
Mm-hmm. No,
so
it definitely makes sense.
I felt like every time I played in, I had a really bad round. So like Vegas, I believe it was my 2nd round that I just played really, really bad in. And then Memorial, it was my 3rd round. I believe I played really bad. And then Waco was my 2nd round again. I've shot really good, 950, 970 rated rounds. And then I kicked it off with a 10 rated round. And it completely killed, I felt like, the momentum of my tournament. It went from, I have a chance to win this to, well, let's see if I can get top 5 or better.
Yep.
And, I know it's a learning process and this is my first year on tour, but I feel like I have a lot of high expectations for myself. And like you mentioned, I believe I dropped 8 points just in this year alone. And for me, it's it's not the way I wanted to start off, but we got to learn somehow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because at some point last year, I'm pretty sure you were either 4th or 5th highest rated female player in the world. And so, yeah, I can totally get the frustrations and the expectations that you have going into a new season. And like you said, you were finally out on the road full time now. You and Alexis are both full-time touring. What some people might not know about you, though, is that you are technically a 3-time world champion. 2014, 15, and 16. Can you tell us about those titles?
Yeah, so I played Junior Worlds, like Nick mentioned, for 3 years, and I won them all. I don't know. Junior Worlds gave me a lot of learning experience, a lot of, Mason likes to put it out, a lot of winning. Like, you learn how to win early on. And I think for myself, that's huge. It kind of pushed me to where I'm today because it made me competitive. Like, it gave me that little taste of, oh yeah, like this is what it takes to win, and this is what it feels like to win. a bigger tournament. And when I first played Junior Worlds, I was only playing for I think a year at the time, and I was the only girl like not sponsored, me and Alexis. So going into Junior Worlds, it's almost like a mini like pro worlds. Everyone's sponsored. You got some juniors hanging out with some of the best at the time, like Paul and Paige, and it's like it's pretty intense. For me, it was like, well, I know I'm capable of winning, and I'm not sponsored. Not being everyone's like, especially teenagers, they kind of look at you a little differently, like, you're not sponsored, so you must not be good. And it's like, for me, it was like, well, I want to show you how good I am not being sponsored. And I was so new into the game, and it kind of like sparked this bigger fire I intended to ever have for the game.
Very cool.
Wow. Something that stands out to me is your throwing form. I'm assuming it gets commented on fairly often. Your form looks so good. Can you tell me, like, where did you learn to throw? Did you pattern it off of anybody, or who taught you? How did you learn to throw like that?
Yeah. So, funny story, 2018, the beginning of the year, around like February, Bradley Williams actually reached out to me and Alexis, and he was like, hey, I was watching some of your videos, and we just need to change your form completely. And I was like, well, what do you mean by that? Change my form completely? He's like, yeah, we just need to redo the thing. Come to Austin. And we had like a 4-hour. And I remember going home thinking like, wow, form is a new level for me. Like, I never was the person to say like, I want good form. That's all I want. And then after learning like what he had to say and like how important form was, I was like, I want my form to be perfect. And I kind of just studied him and Paul. And then after AM Worlds in 2018, we actually went to Paul's house, and Paul was actually helping us a little bit about our form, pointing tips out and, tricks about what we can do to improve our form. So yeah, I'd give it to those two guys right there that taught us our form. And currently today, I'm still trying to, improve it anyhow I can.
Well,
it's funny because
yeah.
Go ahead, Matt.
I was just going to say, if it's inspiring to you at all, it's inspiring to me to watch and for me to actually look to you and think about how I need to change my form. Obviously, I'm not a professional disc golfer, but it is inspiring to me. So keep up the good work there.
Thank you.
It's funny because, you have Paul Macbeth and you have his form, and then Bradley Williams has very similar form. It's a little bit slower. And then you have Valerie, which is kind of that like funny mixture of both of them. So that's, you can kind of tell that it does come from both of them, which is really cool. But like we said earlier, you are touring this year. It's your first year. What does that look like for you? Do you have any specific goals that you have going on throughout the season?
For me, I think at the moment it's funny we talk about form. That's one of the things I feel like has been off lately is just driving for me. And I feel like that's a huge that's one thing I'm trying to dial in right now. It's just getting my distance and my accuracy to be on point, because that's what I've been working on the off season, is trying to gain more distance. So for me, I think it's trying to get at least top 5 in almost, every event I play in, if not better.
Wow. Yeah, top 5. That's a pretty tall order, especially if and when the Europeans come back.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, just out of curiosity, like, where do you place yourself with the competition? I mean, obviously, you have your historical tournament favorites and Paige Pierce and Katrina Allen, and the list goes on. Now there's a lot of newer players coming in. This is am I wrong? This is your first year actually trying to hit tour events on a larger capacity. Where do you see yourself fitting in with those players? Like, you say top 5, is that where you see yourself, or do you feel like you're going to do better or worse depending on who's at the tournament?
No, I feel like a good either top 5, top 4. I feel like if I can, get my distance and my backhand together, I feel like I could be top 5, if not better.
Okay, and that was going to be actually the follow-up question there is, so what's it going to take to see you in a podium finish? So to get that 3rd, 2nd, or even 1st place, you mentioned just a few things you might like to improve upon. Maybe just elaborate a little bit, if you don't mind. What are those things that you think it will take to see you get on that podium finish?
well, like I mentioned, I think my backhand just needs to get consistent, and I need to get more distance. And I feel like I need to get my forehand dialed in. I felt like I had it dialed in a couple months ago, but I had a little injury with it where I felt like I put a muscle, so I had to take a break for a couple months. So obviously, taking a break for a couple months, it means not practicing it and losing consistency with it. So I feel like now, recently, I've been trying to work at it, work the right way, put so much into it. And same thing as far as it goes with my backhand. I got injured, in 2019, and it cost me to lose distance. So I felt like it's just trying to gain distance all over again, but without getting re-injured.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you're a big advocate. I think, following you on Instagram, you do a lot of field work. You, Mason, and Alexis all do a lot of field work together. And a lot of times when people kind of hear the name Valerie Mandujano, I had to learn that. I thought the D was in a different spot of your last name earlier, and Paul was laughing at me. But anywho, where you hear Valerie, you hear Alexis at the same time. Now, Alexis actually switched sponsorships over to Discraft this year, and congratulations to you, actually got a promotion with the Innova team. So now you're on the star team for Innova. You have a Tour Series discs. Is it the Nexus AVR? Is that what it is?
Galactic.
The Galactic AVR. Okay, I knew it was one of the really, really pretty ones. So what is that like? How is that beneficial to you? Have you been putting with those for a while? Tell us about the new disc.
Yeah, I've been putting with them since the ending of last year. For me, playing in Texas so much, it's so hot out here where, my preference is not to have anything too grippy because I constantly sweat a lot in my hands. And so I used to putt with, Fireflies. And I found that they tend to be a little too tacky for me, especially in the summer. They work good in the winter, but summer out here is brutal. So putting with the Galactic, I found I have a cleaner release. And for me, it was just something that I found beneficial, and I just felt confident once I was putting with them. But for Alexis, I don't know, it's cool to see her, I guess, grow as an individual, because I know I talked about this in some other interviews, and I feel like so many people were just like, well, they're sponsored with Innova, they're related, they're pretty much the same person. So I feel like now her switching to a different company, it shows people that we're two different people. And I think the more that you guys tend to know us, the more you'll see how different we actually are.
Exactly.
But, yeah, and then also moving up onto the star team, how much Innova supports me, I'm really grateful for it, and how they're willing to take my game can improve and how I can improve as a player this year.
Very nice. I think it's kind of cool. Everyone's different preferences in disc golf when it comes to tacky putters or more slick putters like you're talking about. For me, I like a putter as tacky as it can be. I don't care if it's summertime or if it's wintertime, just something really, really grippy. And I know a lot of people like AVRs. One of my biggest issues with those back in the day was they just felt a little bit too slick. But it's cool to see people out there just loving different types of discs. So congratulations to you on your new Galactic AVR. I think that's pretty awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, totally. I just want to say we're excited to see another FPO player out there giving it their all. We obviously just saw something fantastic this past weekend with FPO division in the player Kona Panis. What struck you about that victory as another competitor? Did anything stand out to you about that victory?
To be honest, no. I just knew it was a matter of time. I mean, I see how much Kona puts into work, all the work that she does and how much she dedicates herself to the game. I feel like it's just a matter of time. I see all, our generation, meaning all the girls, early 20s, on how much work they're putting in. I feel like for us, compared to, Paige and Katrina and a lot of the FPO players, Sarah, they have a lot of years on us, and now we're just trying to catch up. We're playing catch up with them. That's the way I feel. So I feel like us putting all these extra hours in time, it's just a matter of time for it to pay off.
Yeah, for sure. So, Nick, you usually do this part, but I'm going to take it from you tonight. Is there anybody you'd like to shout out, any extra sponsors beyond who we've already addressed, or anything that people could do to help support your touring efforts?
I'd like to shout out Pound Disc Golf because they make great bags. I Fling Plastic, Birdie Few. And I think a way you can support my tour is just support, buying my disc, support my Instagram, follow me, and I appreciate that.
Where can they find you on Instagram? What's the tag?
Valerie _ Mandujano 99.
Awesome. And where would you find your Tour Series disc? Where's the best place? A local retail shop or going to Innova directly?
Innova directly.
Okay.
Innova factory store.
Cool. So everybody go check out these new Galactic ABRs. Help support Valerie, help supporting the FPO players getting on tour. Obviously, best of luck to you. I'm excited. Are you playing Belton in Texas States, I'm assuming?
Yes, I will be there.
Cool. So you got the little home course advantages potentially down in the Texas. You've been down there. How close are these? Do you play them often?
There's still 2.5, and where we will be playing Texas States is more like 4 hours for me. So they're pretty much a drive.
Oh, okay. Yeah, definitely not home course advantage. Well, the home state advantage, you have it, and you and Paige Pierce. So, excuse me. Good luck to you. We'll be watching along, and then hopefully we'll have you on the show again sometime soon.
Yeah, I would love that. Thanks, guys.
All right. Cool. Thanks a lot, Valerie. We'll see you around. We're rooting for you. All right. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Peace.
All right. So that was Valerie, everybody. And it's not often we get to have 2 FPO players on our show. So we're going to work on here in the next few minutes trying to get Kona in. Nick, what stood out to you?
I was going to say, while Matt is doing that, I'm going to talk to you guys about what stood out to me. No, I've known Valerie for about a year now. It's obviously seeing her at tournaments here and there. I know the dedication that her, Mason, and her sister Alexis put in. So I'm super excited to see them go out on tour and, just better themselves. I think it was kind of a long time coming for them to go out on tour, and especially right now during the whole little Texas swing, be on the lookout for their names to be towards the top.
Yeah, for sure. And I thought what stood out to me when we asked her about Kona and her round, and I said, did anything stand out to you about that victory? Did you catch what she said, Nick?
Yeah, she was like, nothing really. It was just only a matter of time.
She said, yeah, she's like, she said, no, I wasn't surprised. It was a matter of time. You're right. I think that was really telling of what people are perceiving, other competitors are perceiving on the course. Me from afar, you out in the course sometimes, seeing what's happening, through Disc Golf Network, not fully seeing all the effort. Obviously, we see her social media, and we do see that, she can post throws and putts, but not actually seeing the grind. So for some of us, it came off as just this, really? We didn't know this was going to happen. Valerie said differently. So I think that was really cool. All right.
I think that's definitely something as competitors, it's really fun to appreciate. It's just you can see how much someone else is working, and then you can appreciate that and saying look, they deserve that. It was their time for sure.
Yeah. And so I want to say, without further ado, Nick, we're actually lined up here with the recent Waco champion known by the name Kona, Panis. I want to say live and recording. We're still going with the live feeling. Unfortunately, Kona, the technical difficulties tonight, people are not live streaming and chatting, which means there's going to be shocked later by what you say. We're going to put it up tonight. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Kona. Congratulations.
Of course.
Congratulations. Can I ask you this first question on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being very poor, 10 being perfect? How would you rate your tournament play this last weekend?
Probably a 8.9.
Wow.
Very precise.
Care to elaborate on that, Kona?
I had a few hiccups. I took that 7 on the last round and then proceeded to take a 5 directly after it. That was very frustrating. Even with my big lead, I wanted to shoot another, really good round, and I didn't want any huge mistakes. And that 7 irked me because the first 2 rounds, I didn't really have any other big numbers.
I got a couple questions on it. So you averaged 996 throughout the tournament. Is that your highest tournament average you've ever had?
Oh, for sure. I think I've only had 1,000 rated round ever.
And you had 2 in one tournament.
I know.
Pretty
cool.
exciting.
Yes. And
Very exciting.
It's kind of interesting, Paige just her rating just went to 996, I believe. So it's kind of funny that I, averaged 996.
So that's the cool thing.
Yes.
I think what's cool about that is that's what it takes to win a tournament. Is, Paige, obviously with an incredible monument of the 996 player rating, that's what you had to average to win a tournament. But you did have 2 rounds over that 1,000 mark, which is pretty incredible. Those tournament rounds were nearly 70 points above your player rating, and you beat your closest competitor by 12 strokes. What was going on with this tournament? Like, what kind of made everything click? Because from my point of view, I watched it, after my round, after Paul's round, we went and watched the FPO coverage. And I remember vividly the last round on hole 13, you left her upshot a little bit short in circle 2. You had to throw a little Annie to the right of a tree. And then you had like a 28-footer going back to the basket. And you just nailed it right on the pro side, went right in the basket. It was just confident putts after confident putts after confident putts. And I know that's something that you've been working on over the last few years, is finding the consistency in that. What made everything click at this tournament?
I think, just like you said, it was the confident putting, knowing that, putting myself anywhere throughout, the circle, it didn't really matter. Like, I felt like it was just like my timing on my putt was so perfect. And I think I give a lot of credit to my trigger. If you watch my putt, I'm putting out a putting tutorial soon. But if you watch my putt, like, my foot is my trigger. If you watch when I go to throw, like to make my putt, it's a throw putt. But when I'm about to go, you'll see my front foot hit the ground, and that's like right when I like release. And like whenever I feel like my putt's getting a little off, whether it's right or left, I just go back to the foot. Like as soon as that foot goes like straight forward, that's when I'm supposed to release. And like it has just it's fixed my timing completely. I'm releasing on the same release every time. So my hit has just been like amazing, and just knowing that like wherever I put myself, I've improved my scramble game. It's just been the putt that's been struggling. So, once I found this putt that everybody loves to talk crap about, I've been loving it.
Okay. That's cool. So in 2016 is actually the first time that Kona and I had met. She stayed at my house for a week during the Vibram Open back then. Her and Hannah have been friends. They actually both stayed there with my family. And I remember playing a practice round with Kona, and right off the bat, I knew Kona had a phenomenal backhand. And I remember during the tournament, I was following around with her, and she crushed it over hole 1. It would have been blues at the time for the FPO layout. They played hole 1 blues, so you got to throw it over the lake. And she smashed it like 40 or 50 feet past the white basket. And I was like, wow. Like, it was very, very impressive. And then slowly and surely, you've developed your forehand game. But what was always lacking, and a lot of people can say this about their own game, is finding that consistent putting stroke. And believe me, there are MPO players, FPO players, MP40, FP40 who have awkward style of putting to the outside world. But ultimately, whatever is working for you and whatever is consistently putting you in the basket, whatever consistently gives you the confidence to go and throw that putt, go for it. I mean, we can see you proved it last weekend that your throw putt that people, you say like to make fun of, it's working for you. So why change it at that point?
And I'm just going to say it. I'm not a hater, but it looks weird. And I think I say that because I say that because we're not used to seeing that with anybody else. So Kona, you mentioned, haters, or people that love to hate on it. How is that coming across to you? Like, where are you seeing that? Number one, is it primarily social media? And how are you dealing with that? Because to Nick's point, putt the way it works.
So, I think it's just been my mindset this year. I'm more positive. I'm really not really giving in to those haters. If anything, they're kind of fueling me more this year than breaking me down. I don't know if that's just the confidence that I'm bringing to the table, just because Colton and I have been working so hard this past off season that like I know I can back it up. Talk all the crap you want, but I'll keep banging those putts. But yeah, it's mostly on social media. I think on International Women's Day, I had a guy message me and say, your putt is absolute trash. And I was like, dude, like, all right, I want to see you out here at the DGPT playing. I want to see you, you know, hitting the road, you know, playing these events. And I snapped right back and I was like, excuse you. Like, it sucks that, you know, people have to say those things, but you know, like I said, the confidence is through the roof with this, and I haven't really, it hasn't really bugged me because it's been working and it's been going in the basket, and it's so cool seeing them go in the basket. I'm not yipping or like always missing in a certain direction. Like, I just feel like I'm hitting these putts, and it's been huge.
For what it's worth, I said it looked very weird, and I was just being very transparent. I'll get used to it, so that's not a big deal. Because I think we're gonna see it a lot more on coverage, and it's one of those things where watching the tournament round, which I consume live disc golf, and it was totally impressive. So again, congratulations to you. Can I follow that up by asking, and people like to hate on everybody. People like to hate on me for the way I ask some of these questions, but I just try to let you have an opportunity to respond in a way that speaks to it. Is this something that we should expect? I know our last interview with you, I don't remember how long ago, 6 months ago, when the Disc Golf Pro Tour was still in its COVID season. It still kind of is, of course. You said, it's going to take some things coming together, but yeah, I think you should expect to see me on some lead cards, on some podium finishes. And we kind of waited the rest of that year out, and I don't think we saw any, correct me if I'm wrong, like podium finish. But then you come out of the gate this year pretty strong at Las Vegas, and then obviously doing what, and I don't know if we're going to wait until you're off of this interview, but like, I actually have a talking point that this could be one of the most significant wins of the disc golf decade. I really believe that, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. But is this something that we should expect out of you going forward from here? Or do you feel like you played well above your average of where you should be? Like, what do you think?
I think, you know, sky's the limit. I think I can do some amazing things, but like I keep saying in every interview that I've been asked, I have no expectations. I'm taking every tournament day by day and, you know, enjoying the ride. You know, like I said during, you know, my interview with Terry, I feel like I'm just enjoying every minute of my round. Like when I was playing the Beast, like I didn't, like, of course, the first few holes, you know, I was shaky. I was nervous. You know, I've never had such a big lead. And I was, you know, it's always that voice in the back of your head saying, you know, are you going to go take a 7 and then like a 6 and then, you know, mess it up? Like, you never know. Like, people think you're going to have those wheels come off, and they just didn't for me. So, you know, I haven't been put in that position before, and to be able to just hold on to it and everything was huge. But, you know, I hope that you all see me on some more lead cards, and I hope that I can win another one. But, you know, I have no expectations, and I'm just loving the ride.
Yeah, as long as you keep going out there and keep putting in the work, there's definitely, we're obviously going to see you on more FPO lead cards, and we're obviously going to see you win more FPO DGPT tournaments and above. You were kind of just elaborating it on a little bit, your mindset in that last round. You could tell you were focused, your determination, you had that kind of like stone cold killer look going about you. What was going through your head walking into the last round? I think you had a 10 or 12 stroke lead. What was the mindset going in, like after the front 9? When did you feel like you won the tournament?
When I tapped out on 18.
That's
when I knew I won the tournament, because on hole 9 I took that 7, and like if you watch the, you know, the live or when GK Pro puts it out, I'm gonna do a little spoiler on that, but like I was kind of upset, like, because like my scorecards have been so clean, so blue, and I didn't want any yellow, and I had that yellow, and that definitely, gosh, that irked me. And then on I believe it's hole 15, I went out of bounds because of a misread of the wind. Oh, and I was like, you can tell on there too, I was salty. I was like, I wanted to minimize all my OBs. Like, I still had expectations for this round, even though I had this big lead. Like, the lead didn't matter to me. Like, I have expectations, at least for, you know, how I want to play. And I definitely wanted to go, I don't know if I wanted to go bogey free. I think I kind of expected, you know, with the nerves of the last round, and, you know, at least have something. But yeah.
How did you demonstrate the composure, though? You talked about being salty about some things and some things not going your way. But from my perspective, and I can only speak for me, but I think there's probably more people out there like me. I don't know how to compare this, but this focus composure, professional appearance, and I'll use the word again, focused. Like, you could tell you were just, this is my job right now. Nothing is taken for granted. I don't care if I have 12-stroke lead. This is still my job, and I'm going to finish out strong. I mean, where did you learn that kind of composure?
I don't know. I don't know. It was a different, this tournament, and this and All-Star I just felt completely different as a player. Like, like everyone keeps saying it, I felt so composed. Like, I totally felt like so chill. Like, Lisa and I were hyping each other up. Like, she would throw like a 6 shot, and she'd come over and give me knuckles, and she's like, sick. We kept on, pumping each other up. So it's like, yeah, it was like quiet at times, and like there's like 700 camera guys recording you and like getting in the way. Like, I usually like being directly behind the player because I like seeing their shot and checking their feet. And like the camera guys are like in the way, and like they're behind them, and I'm like, I want to see like what they're doing, what their line's looking like. And so it's like, it's completely different. But I enjoyed my card. I loved my card, and I just didn't feel too much pressure. I just felt like I belonged there.
Wow. So then we're going to take you to that last tap out putt where you said you finally, that's when you knew you won it. So you knew your score, obviously, or you knew at the very least you went in with such a lead and you knew you didn't lose it. So whether you knew it or not, that you knew you won it when you tapped out. And then I think it's very authentic, the reaction. I don't think you're trained to cry on demand. Can you explain a little bit the emotions that you were feeling in that moment and what it was what those feelings were? And what it was about that moment that brought them.
Yeah, I don't like crying in front of people, and I cried in front of people. So that was kind of awkward. Madison came over and hugged me, and I'm just like, I promise I'm not crying. But I tapped out on 18, or no, I actually laid up on 18, and I kind of like was staring at the ground, waiting for everybody to finish out, and just like right sitting there, I was just looking at the ground, and I just like, I just got overcome. I've been working so hard. I said it during the interview. I cried during the interview when Terry asked me. I've been working so hard, and to be able to go out there and not only be, our number one rated player rated at 996 when I'm rated at 927, and like Katrina and Sarah Holcomb and all of these women that I've been like, wow, these people are gods. How are they shooting all these rounds? And to like go out and beat these ladies that I've looked up to for a very long time. It's just crazy to me. And it just like I saw Colton, and I was looking over at Cole, and then, like it just so special. And like I called my parents afterwards, and they're crying, and everybody was crying. I guess the commentators were even crying. So, like it was just really special. Everybody knows, like you said, on social media. I've been all over social media for such a long time. Nick caddied for me when I shot one of my worst rounds ever, and I remember calling my dad and bawling and telling him how upset and how bad I was playing. Like it's like I've been working towards this forever, and I finally did it. Like boom, check, finally.
You got that check mark down there. It's funny, you're reading my mind. You're always bringing up little bits and pieces of the next question I have, and the next one I have for you is your parents. They're obviously pretty big cheerleaders in your life when it comes to the disc golf world. Your mom's a super nice lady, and your dad actually works in the disc golf world, and Jeff's the man. Jeff's got incredible photography, videography skills, works for Innova Champion Discs, just an all-around incredible guy. And you've brought up before that they send you support messages throughout the week. You were able to call your dad back in 2016 and just pour out your heart saying, this is going so bad, this is going so poorly, but now you finally hit that weekend to where you got to call your parents and say, look, I did it. What was that like? What were the emotions going through? How did that conversation go with them?
It was crazy. So my mom doesn't watch scores. My dad does, but my mom's like, I don't want to know until the round is done. She like gets way too stressed out. So like they're in Hawaii right now, and they like were I know, dude, I know. Yeah, right. They left without me. But
Kona, you can either have a trip to Hawaii or you can win Waco. Which do you
win
choose?
A tournament.
Yeah, I pick the tournament right now.
Yes, I would too. But I think after the second round, I like called my mom, and she's like, what the heck? We just went off snorkeling, and all of a sudden you're leading by 10 strokes. What is going on? Like totally crazy moment, just talking to my parents about it. And, when I called them, they didn't have service right after the tournament, but when I called them, they were both like, woo, like my mom was always the screamer at the basketball games. So she was like, woo, let's go, oh my gosh. So, crazy moment. They've been so supportive. I mean, they let me choose disc golf over forcing me to like go to college and do something that I didn't know I wanted to do. They let me do that. And we moved to California so I could do that. And so my dad could become a part of like Innova and do that. So it's like, it's become this whole family affair. Now my mom works for Hero Disc, which is a branch off of Innova. And so it's like, everybody's involved. My brother even works at Hero Disc helping stamp. So it's like a family affair.
Cool. Very cool. Wow. I did not know that about your mom and brother. That's awesome.
So as a follow-up on that, as we get ready to wrap this up, I think in the last interview that we had with you on our show, which thank you again for honestly, when you did make my day when you said, I'm in, I was like, yes, we got this great interview with Kona.
Exactly.
Let me round it out like this, saying last time we asked you like, hey, is this your career? Is this going to be what you choose to do? Because at that moment, it was a different moment than it is now even, but you obviously have had your brain and your mind set to get to this point. So you knew it before we did. But do you see this as being your, like, there's no other option right now. You're going to keep going full tilt in disc golf.
I think so. It's not only the competitive side that like, oh, I want to make this a career. It's all like the things involved with it. It's all the people involved. It's our community. It's the social media bringing us all together. I've connected with so many people over social media. I've made so many connections, and it's not only playing. Playing is the fun part for me and gets to show my competitive side. But like it's all the other stuff involved. It's being able to give back to, our sport and help grow our women's side of the sport. That's the biggest thing right now. So yeah, no, it's the career for now until my body doesn't let me.
That sounds like a little while.
Awesome. Good to hear. So one thing, what is your signature series discs? Is it the Emperor? Is that the name of it?
Yes, the iBlend Emperor with Infinite, and then the Star Mako 3 with Innova.
And so you were promoted to team champion this year, correct?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So while we're kind of like wrapping this up, we always want to give everyone where can they find you on Instagram, and what is the best way to support you out on the road? So if you can give us all those, that would be awesome.
So you can follow me on Instagram on Kona_disc, or I have a Facebook page, Kona Panis Disc Golf. And you can get my iBlend Emperors on the infinitediscs.com, I believe. And my Star Mako 3s have been sold out for a while, and we do not know when restock will happen. So stay tuned to my stories. I'm pretty good at putting up when those are available.
Awesome. Be on the lookout for the Star Mako 3s. Pretty swirly from what I've seen, I think, online. So congratulations, obviously, for winning the Waco tournament.
Before you go.
And then also, yeah.
Before you go, I just caught something there. That you got promoted this year. Like, was this like insider trading? Like, she's like, hey, I'm going to go out and win Waco. If you promote me, I'm going to do it. So then it was like, okay, yeah, we'll do it. We'll sell a lot of discs. It's great. It's insider trading. You were holding back until they promoted you. Is that how that worked?
Yep, totally. Oh, you got it.
She's got the All-Star event, and then she's got Waco now.
Yeah.
Are you playing, what are the next, are you doing Waco Belton and Texas States?
We are. We just got to Belton yesterday. We've been kind of hanging out. Today was our off day / laundry day, and then we will be at Texas States.
Awesome. Well, everybody be on the lookout for new Star Mako 3s. Check out Kona's Instagram. Congratulations once again, and best of luck to you, obviously. We'll see you in the near future, and hopefully we will have you on the show again sometime soon.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Good luck, Kona. Have a good night.
Peace.
Bye.
Bye. All right, Nick. So obviously that was the Waco FPO champion and I should just say winner of the Waco Annual Charity Open. By the way, was that on purpose? WACO, the acronym, was that on purpose? Someone's like, hey, Waco can stand for Waco Annual Charity Open. Do you know?
I would assume so, to be honest. I mean, I think, yeah.
Has to be.
I would have to assume so.
Okay.
But that I'm not 100% sure.
So what stood, man.
A lot stood out.
She's even composed, like, in her interviews. Like, just, she knows what she's saying.
It's funny. She's not super, like, aggressive with her answers, which is kind of cool. She's, like you said, she's composed. Like, when you ask her, is this something we should see more out of you and everything like, she's like, yeah, I mean, I don't really have, expectations towards it. She's kind of taking it day by day, when you'd have other people be like, oh, heck yeah, you're going to see me on every single lead card till the end of time. So yeah, her answers are very composed. She is a very composed person out on the course and even off the course when, people see her.
Yeah. And I said, we'll talk about it later. I can dabble in it a little bit right now, and it might be a pretty big take here, but I feel like what she did, you could almost not even have to classify it and say that it was one of the bigger statement wins of, I don't know if I can advance a decade forward because I don't know what's happening. But like, when have we seen a win with the likes of Paige Pierce, Katrina Allen, and the whole FPO field in general? Yeah. So even go Haley King, Heather Young, and now obviously Valerie. The field is stronger and more stacked than it's ever been. And for her to do it in such a way where she has a 12-stroke victory, have we seen anything that dominant, minus maybe a Paul Macbeth victory at Worlds one year when he had such a lead? Like,
yeah, I was gonna say, I remember the commentators every so often keep bringing back some record, and I think it was if Kona had shot X amount or like won the tournament by a certain amount of strokes, she would have the record for either all-time DGPT wins or something like that. I know she was close to doing something insanely special. But at the same time, I don't know the statistics right off the top of my head. But yeah, to go out and win the way she did, pretty incredible, especially with the field that there was there. It's not like, not to take anything away from the All-Star event, but the All-Star event only had the 8 FPO women that were there. And then, so now taking on it was only 4 FPO women, right?
Well, and it's just in general, and even the commentators were kind of alluding to this. Yeah, but in general, even then, that is like, it's a totally different format. You couldn't even say like she won that outright on her own. Like she finished, she finished it out on her own, which is impressive. But to do this wire to wire, Waco with such a lead the whole way to, I mean, I don't know what to say.
Exactly.
In the chats or in the comments later, if you want to write us, what do you think? Is that too big of a take to say that that's one of the most dominant victories we've ever seen in any division in a tournament play with the strength of competitor? That's what I want to say, with the strength of the field.
I think it's kind of funny. I think I saw this on Twitter the other day before we bring in our last guest. I had seen Innova Champion Discs or USDGC had posted on Twitter saying, shout out to the last time, one of these times that Ken Climo had won USDGC and he won it by like 13 strokes. A major championship, and Ken Climo went out and won it by 13. So I just thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah. But, so wait, so you're bringing up Ken Climo in this conversation. So
yeah, just, when you're talking about, because there are multiple tournaments where you can look back and, really see a player dominate the rest. I know Ricky had a big lead last year at Ledgestone. Paul, obviously, in 2015 Worlds had won it by a pretty significant amount.
That's where I go back to for Worlds. Ledgestone, maybe Ledgestone for Ricky. But in general, this is up there.
I don't know.
This is
I can't remember the last time an MPO player won by double digits at a large-scale event, especially within the last few years. I don't think it's happened. But I think the most you would see is like 5, 6, 7. Maybe. I know Kevin Jones won GMC last year by maybe 4 or something like that.
Okay. Well, all that being said, we can come back to that at another point. I just wanted to make sure we didn't miss that opportunity to talk about how great that was. thank you, Kona, so much for coming on the show. We do have another guest. This is, I think, our first time, Nick, we've ever done 3 interviews on a show, recording live. We have our next guest, Gannon Buhr, in our green room, now actually on live with us here. Gannon is a 15-year-old. Do I get that right, Gannon? People were asking everywhere. Are you 15 years old?
Yes, I'm 15.
All right, so 15 years old. And you don't have a driver's license, so someone had to drive you to Waco. Who drove you there?
My mom did.
Okay, so
Are you guys originally from Texas?
No, I live in Iowa.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So you drove all the way down. Did you guys drive all the way down from Iowa, or did you fly into Waco area, get a hotel, get a rental car, and all that jazz?
Yeah, we drove all the way down. It was about 12 hours.
Nice, good for you.
Okay. So let me
definitely well worth the trip at this point.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so let me get some of these player accolades out of the way. You were the youngest player, if I'm not mistaken, at age 14 to reach 1,000 rating point as a player rating. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And 4 years ago, you won Junior Worlds. You took home first place in Junior 3 division in 2017. And you averaged 972 over the course of 6 rounds, with 1,020 being your hot round. In 2017, how old were you? Do you remember?
I think I just turned 12.
Okay. So 12 years old, you threw around 1,020 in one of those 6 rounds, averaged 972 at age 12. And then let me just give this other one out there. In 2019, you took down, so this was only 2 years ago, or maybe a little over a year and a half ago, you took down the Junior 15 World Championship. You averaged 1,000 rated golf over 6 rounds. That's really impressive. Have you been playing disc golf your whole life? And I know it sounds funny to ask if you've been playing since you were 11 probably, but how far back does this go for you?
Really since I was 10. Pretty much is when I started.
I'm just taken back. You started at 10, and then a year or so later, you're throwing 1,000 rated rounds. How did that happen?
Well, really, I was just watching Will Schustrick videos, and I just put tons of work in. And a lot of it wasn't even like it wasn't work. I just was having fun in my backyard, and just I was out there, 5-6 hours a day, just throwing and watching form videos and just working on my game, really.
Very nice. So you're 1,007 rated now, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so 1,007 rated. Did that go up or down in this previous update?
No, it hasn't changed.
Oh, okay, gotcha. All right, so 1,007, but your average at Waco was just about 1036. After leaving the event and thinking through it, how do you feel like performance-wise, what would you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best?
Probably a 7. I was definitely really disappointed with the amount of strokes I left out there because, I think I lost by 9. And just thinking back to every single round on how many strokes I left out there and the mistakes I made, I definitely think I could have won the event and shot way better, honestly.
Wow.
Where do you think what were areas that you feel like you messed up on? Was there a certain hole that got you every single round? What happened?
Really just the last 2 rounds, I wasn't able to really take advantage of the front 9 birdies. I think I was round 2, I was even. I only had 2 birdies and I double bogeyed hole 9. Mm-hmm. And then yesterday, round 3, I only had 2 birdies on the front 9, where round 1, I was 6 down through 9.
Gotcha. Yeah, I would definitely say in the front 9 of that. The back 9 definitely has a lot of birdie opportunities, but the front 9 on that course, they're definitely out there. Players who got that accuracy in the woods and can throw that 450, 500-foot shot, they definitely have good advantages on that course. But there are a couple of holes out there that get pretty technical. 9, 12, and 18, 17 as well, actually probably being the most technical. So you're saying hole 9, you double bogeyed the second round? Was that kind of the one bad hole around, maybe?
Yeah, that was like my only bad hole of the tournament, I feel like. And honestly, it was just something that I missed my tee shot by a few feet, and my second shot got really unlucky. And if I was a foot to the right, I would have had an easy par.
Gotcha.
Wow. I'm hearing things, Nick, we're gonna have to talk about after this interview. That's awesome, Gannon. I saw a social post I think it was after round number 1 where you had mentioned you're not going to be thrown off or nervous about video cameras on the lead card for the round 2 because you made lead card. Number 1, how were you so sure of that to make that post to let everyone know you weren't going to be nervous about it? And then secondly, were you right about that? What did the cameras do for you?
100%. Like, I definitely was not nervous at all. Cameras have never ever gotten to me. I just kind of forget about them. I don't even realize they're there. But I think I shot a 10-28 rated round after my rough start, and really the rough start was just due to me not getting in a rhythm. And I wasn't nervous at all. The only reason I was nervous was because I knew I had to still shoot good. It wasn't because of cameras. It wasn't anything else, and I feel like I handled it pretty well.
Okay. So you mentioned there was a little bit different feeling there because you felt like you still had to shoot good. So that feeling, I was just going to ask you, what was the feeling on the lead card for round 2? Maybe between you and the other competitors, or just in general, like what was the feeling that you experienced in that round?
It was just very quiet, which I really don't like because the first round, I actually played with Gavin round 1, and my other card mates, we talked the entire round, and it really just felt like a practice round. It was really laid back, and it just felt like tons of fun. And that's when I shoot my best golf, is when I'm laid back, and I think that's why Gavin did well too. But round 2, we did not talk at all, really. And I think that's what I was told, is that's just what happens on the lead card. And I'm not surprised by it. I kind of expected it, but yeah, definitely it was like eerie almost, just so quiet. Just everyone was in their focus, but really it kind of didn't help me.
Okay, that's and I didn't have this in my follow-up questions here, but I think that's interesting to ask you as such a, and I'm going to call you a young player. That's just relative to the competition, I should say. But as a younger player, how do you see yourself developing to where those opportunities aren't going to be what you're used to maybe when you shoot your best? Like, did you learn anything after this tournament about that? Have you thought about that yet to think about the future?
I don't know. I just couldn't get my rhythm in the last 2 rounds, and I think I don't know what it really was, and I couldn't get that rhythm the whole front 9. So I think it just comes down to more practice, really. But yeah.
You did mention that you used to watch Sure Strick videos. You watch videos to develop your form and everything like that. I personally haven't seen you play yet. I haven't watched any of the coverage from the event, just with all travel and everything. But do you feel like there was something in your game that was lacking, whether your backhand felt off or your forehand or putting or anything like that? Like, what are ways that you're trying to get better right now?
Really, I'm working with a backhand fan grip. Right now I'm power gripping everything. Before my knee injury, which I can get to a little bit later, I was throwing lots of fan grips within 300 feet, and I just lost that feel ever since then. But another thing is my sidearm power. I used to have close to 425 feet of power with my sidearm, and now I can barely maybe reach 400, but probably around 375, which I would definitely like to have more, and it does stem from my knee injury. And then just confidence on the putting green. I know a few years back, I would just step up and pretty much drain every putt that was in my face, and then now I'm just thinking a little bit too much, I think, and I got to continue to develop a routine. That way I don't have to think about it.
Do you plan on touring to more Elite Series events this year?
Yeah, I'll be playing probably about 6 more DGPT events, maybe a few NTs. Not full tour. A lot of it is because I can't drive, but money's also an issue. But definitely, it's just kind of an experiment this year almost, just to see how I do out on tour. And my goal for the whole year was to get one top 10 finish, and I was 2 feet away from that in hole 17. So yeah, I'll be
I was going to say, what did you finish at Waco?
11th, tied for 11th.
Gotcha. So tied for 11th place. And then how does school come into this whole equation? 15 years old, obviously you're in high school. How does that play in?
I do online school. That's that's what they offer for my district. So I'll just take my computer with me and do the work when I'm off the course. or most of the time I'll procrastinate and then just do it at the last second.
There you go. That sounds a lot like me.
Yeah.
Stereotypical teenager. And I worked with teenagers for a long time. So it sounds to me like you said it's kind of like an experiment this year. I would like to think that you just made a pretty big statement as a 15-year-old, even being 11th place. Heck, I feel like being 20th place would have been a statement. But to be on a lead card after round 1, can I ask, like, and maybe it's personal, but like, what did your parents have to say about that when they're like, were they surprised, or were they like, hey, Gannon, we knew you could do it? What was their response?
Honestly, me and my mom and my dad was really surprised, but he doesn't watch me play that much. But my mom, who takes me to pretty much every tournament, like, we just really weren't surprised by my play round 1. It just felt like I was just doing what I always do. And a lot of that, like, I mean, she's watched me play so much, but it's kind of weird because I haven't had like a legit round since like September in 2019, because I had off season happen. I mean, I'm from Iowa, so it gets really cold here in the winter. I usually don't play till April. And then we had Corona, which went up almost until June. And pretty much the day that they released the tournaments back, I hurt my knee, and then I was out for 4 more months. And when I came back, I could like barely walk. I had no sidearm. I was going like 40% speed, and pretty much all my tournaments in 2020 were like legit, I'd say. So, but yeah, we weren't really surprised by the way I played, but more of where I was placed at after round 1.
Yeah. Well, talk to us about the knee injury. What happened to it? How's it feel now? What's going on?
So I was skateboarding in late May in 2020, and I was turning right around a corner going about 20 miles an hour. I was actually longboarding. It was like an electric one, so you can control the speed and everything. It's kind of cool, but I'd done that corner many times before, and I just wasn't gonna make it. So I hopped off the board to like run it out almost, and the second my left foot planted, I just felt a pop in my knee, and within minutes it was the size of like a grapefruit, and I couldn't walk on it. And then went straight to the ER and found out they originally said it was a ACL tear, but because the test they did, but they weren't certain, so they got a MRI, and the MRI revealed that I had a ACL avulsion fracture. So basically, your ACL is between your 2 leg bones, and it connects between them. And a lot of times and this happens in kids a lot, usually about 15 to like 7, your skeletal structure hasn't developed fully. So a lot of the times the ACL actually pulls a piece of bone off with it. The ACL doesn't tear. So what happened with me is it pulled a piece of my tibia off the bone. So all they had to do, so they drilled a hole all the way through my tibia on my left leg, put the bone back where it broke off, and let it heal for 2 months. And then we did physical therapy, and I was back to playing disc golf within 4 months. Even I was going super slow, almost putting no weight through it. It's a lot easier injury to recover from than an ACL tear, because bone heals really nicely, and I didn't have to get a graft. So, I mean, it was definitely like rock solid pretty much.
How do you feel, percentage-wise? 100%, 80%? What do you feel?
About 75.
75.
And a lot of that is because like my sidearm and like my game just kind of feels weird almost, because no matter how hard I try, it's a brain thing where my brain just won't let my body do what I like need to do with my sidearm. My foot's planting way too late, because my leg doesn't want to be rotated on because of my plant leg. Backhand, it really just affects my run-up speed, which I have a pretty solid run-up speed. When I go for full power shots, it definitely slows down, which is kind of annoying, and it kind of gets in my head. But other than that, I have no pain at all, no issues really with anything.
Oh, that's good. And now I'm assuming you're a right-handed backhand player, right?
Yep.
So for people listening on the podcast, when you're planting for sidearm, you're planting with your left foot, and that's where your tear or your fracture kind of happened. Gotcha.
Wow.
So the next contract that you sign with Prodigy is specifically going to say no skateboarding or longboarding.
Yes.
Very good.
Awesome. Can we ask, is it fair to ask you if you've had any other sponsors reach out to you at any point in this last year or two besides Prodigy, or even after the Waco play?
Yeah. I know I had Discraft kind of reach out to me. I think it was after 2019, after I'd hit that whole 1,000 rated thing, and then Discmania a few years back reached out to me, but that was actually a week after I got on Prodigy. Discmania reached out to me, but really, like, my heart's always been with Prodigy because Will's my favorite player. I don't know if you can see the poster right up there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you can kind of see the poster.
Yeah, so, but yeah, that's it. But I'll probably stick with Prodigy for a while.
All right.
Very cool.
I think after the play, that's why I asked the question. After that play, and if you do it again, and then you do it again, or anything, significant, top 20, I think you're going to have people coming for you. So Prodigy is going to either have to step up. I don't know what they're doing for you now, but they'll probably have to step up their game. So that's good for you as an athlete. Awesome ambition there. Is this something that you want to do all the way, like, throughout? If you keep playing well and you graduate high school, is this something you want to do as a possible career?
Yeah, I want to play for as long as possible. I'll definitely get a college degree just in case, obviously, because I'm going to get too old eventually. But yeah, I definitely want to, like, especially with this year and next year, it's an experiment to see if I can really make it my career and make some money off of it.
Awesome. Is there anything that we missed that you would like to share? Because this is an opportunity to let people out there who are your fans already and becoming fans know about you, maybe something we missed. Is there anything that you'd like to share?
Yeah, so I want to share how I got into disc golf.
Awesome.
So the reason I got into disc golf when I was about, like, maybe even 9 or 10, I was watching Brody Smith videos on YouTube about him throwing into basketball hoops, and I had a basketball hoop in my backyard because we had a park, a huge wide open space. So I went to my local sporting goods store to go get a ultimate frisbee to do those same trick shots, just because I thought it was so cool. And I bought Innova Champion Firebird by accident, and I kind of just, like, stuck with it. And so Brody is really the reason that I got into disc golf, which is kind of cool. And now that he's playing disc golf is awesome. I'm, like, following him every single tournament and just always rooting for him. So that's kind of a cool way how I got into disc golf.
I have a feeling, and Nick, we'll have to make sure if it doesn't happen, but I have a feeling Brody's going to hear that. He is a regular listener of our show, and I think that'll be inspiring for him. Don't you agree, Nick?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's going to motivate him to try to get past Gannon over in the ratings department, but,
it's going to take
just
Nick.
Keep working at
Nick,
it.
what's it going to take for you to beat out 15-year-old Gannon Buhr?
I don't know. I got to learn how to play more than one tournament well. That's my issue right now.
Awesome. You mentioned Gannon, as we get ready to let you loose here. You mentioned you'll probably hit another 6 events. Do you know those off the top of your head, the ones you're planning to be at?
Yeah. So Music City Open, Jonesboro, DDO, Preserve, Idlewild, D-Glow. I'm definitely missing one.
You got to come to. You have to come to MVP. Come on.
I can't. It's too far. I really want to. That'll probably be next year. So I'm not going to anything West Coast, but I actually have a map up there with all my tournaments on it. I'm going to Clash of the Canyons and USDGC. I assume if I keep up the play I'm doing right now, I'll qualify. So, I was actually surprised. I didn't know that Waco wasn't a qualifier. I thought it was.
Funny. I was actually just about to ask you, is Waco even a qualifying event this year?
I don't think so.
Surprising that it's not. I don't really know how all the qualifying events work. I'm curious to look into that. But I'm surprised that DGPTs don't already count, like DGPTs, NTs, majors, and everything like that. You would think that the top level events in our sport would all be USDGC qualifiers, but I'm sure there's criteria that they all got to go through.
So I was going to say, what surprises me, because you're saying you're surprised it's not USDGC qualifier. I'm like, what surprises me is that there's a 15-year-old who's saying, hey, I should have qualified if it was a qualifier. Like, and this
Crazy
is coming.
Times we live in.
This is coming from me, who started kids disc golf. So it's not surprising that the talent's there. So surprising is probably not the right word. It's more of just like, we're here. It's now, and it's happening. So congratulations to you again. I think congratulations is in order. Is this your highest finish at a disc golf pro tour event?
Yeah, it's only my second one, actually. Okay. I played Jonesboro, but that was when I was still hurt, and I think I got 39th. I had no double bogeys the entire tournament.
Good for
and
you.
I double bogeyed the last hole and missed cash by 1.
Oh no!
With an injury. With an injury.
Yeah. So I was actually throwing 1-footed sidearms, so I'd balance on my right foot and just yank a sidearm over, and I could get about 300 feet of distance. So I mean, it was still there.
You might be outdistancing Matt on a good sidearm. I don't know yet, but you might be taking him out on that one-legged pirate sidearm.
Yeah, go
that's
watch
funny.
Simon's recent vlog where I do a CTP challenge with Simon. You can see how far I throw. Yeah, solid 300.
Okay.
That's funny. Gannon, where can the people find you on the social medias?
Oh yeah. So my Instagram is Gannon_Buhr_DG, and Facebook is just Gannon Buhr. And then I'm trying to start a YouTube channel. I kind of got to figure out all the editing and whatever. But that'll be something you can follow me on, because I have a course that is about 1/4 mile from my house I help design, and it's like a perfect course to do like funny challenges and stuff. So I'll try to push out some content and, keep getting my name out there.
Nice, good for you. I think that's the best way people can do it right now is just getting into the YouTube game, being active on all the social medias. Definitely. I remember my good buddy Hunter Thomas. He was the one on Twitter, and he said he was super excited to watch you play on the lead card at Waco. And he said you were only 15 years old, and pretty much right then and there, I was like, holy crap, that's actually insane. So that's, to be honest, I've heard of your name before in the past of, you were the first player to hit 1,000 at such a young age. But I didn't remember it going into the Waco event. So that's pretty cool to finally actually get to sit down, talk with you and everything like that. I'm very curious and excited to see where your game elevates to.
For sure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on the show, Gannon. I hope, and based off of what I've seen, I think we'll have you on the show again at some point to talk about your successes. So congratulations again, and have a great and safe evening. I know you traveled all day. Hopefully you sleep well tonight.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, man.
Take it easy.
Peace
man.
out.
We'll see you around.
All right. Bye.
Yeah.
Peace.
Nick?
Look at that, Matt. We just did 3 guests in one night. And unfortunately, with all the technical difficulties that we had, we weren't able to do it live. But at the same time, I'm
it's
excited
live.
we're doing the podcast. Yeah, imagine.
No, it's as in like, this is how we've done our show. We
Yeah.
record live. It's just the difference is right now we don't have, a million people chatting about it. So
Exactly. Which it is what it is.
Yeah.
But we still have some fire topics to talk
man.
about. Matt, you want to bring us in?
all right, let's give this a go. Well, wait, before we do that, and I know our listeners are probably like, why are you talking about internet quality?
Yeah, right.
Gannon's internet quality was fire. Talking about fire points, like that was the best. I'm like, how is he a disc golfer and he has good Wi-Fi?
Oh, see, what's funny about that is my internet quality right now is hot garbage. So everything on my screen is just wicked blurry. So I'm actually very excited to hear that his was actually pretty decent.
It was so good. I hope our viewers appreciated that. So here's
it's funny that those are the things that we look forward to is when we have on guests, because like I said, my internet quality is crap right now. So all of our guests' internet quality to me has seemed bad because mine is awful.
We're gonna have to do a rating at the end of the year of like disc golf interviews by Wi-Fi strength or internet connectivity.
That would actually be hilarious.
Kona was actually really surprisingly good too. Like I was
I saw her setup until on the Skype screen it was just me completely frozen. So I felt like I was talking to myself that whole interview, but it was cool to hear her voice and get some cool answers out of her.
Really? Are you seeing us now or no? It's still...
I'm seeing us.
All right, here we go. Enough talk about technical stuff. Although that took up a significant portion of our time tonight.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so Waco. You ready? We talked about it with all these players, their successes, but here is a huge topic. Nikko Locastro, longtime player in the sport, takes down his second disc golf pro tour event, his first one last year at the Preserve. Obviously he was super pumped. He didn't know that he had won until they announced it, and you could just see the emotion flying, right? This one he takes down. He did know, and there's a lot of tells during that round that he knew what was going on. And we will talk about that a little bit. But congratulations to him. Like,
yeah. Oh God,
to take down an elite series with the field that was there is a lifetime achievement for anybody.
I mean, realistically, so you can look back at the Preserve, and I don't think Ricky or Paul were at that event. I know Eagle was there, Calvin was there, Simon was there. There were a lot of big time pros, but I do know that I'm pretty sure that Ricky, I know Paul was not there. So for Nikko to come back and here at Waco, go out and take everyone down. Realistically, the only top name player that wasn't there, I should say Simon, obviously with his injury, and then Nate Sexton, obviously wasn't playing the event. But other than that, I mean, I feel like every single top 10 player in the world was at that event. You had the Dickerson, you had Heimberg, you had Macbeth, you had Wysocki, you had Eagle. And to be honest, this year at Waco, it was a struggle bus for a lot of these players.
That's a whole nother topic. Let's before we get to that, let's talk for a minute here. Nikko averaged 1,058, which I feel is borderline low for winning an event. But again, so I just lost your feed. I don't know if you're still there or not, but I'm just gonna jump to my camera for a second. Let me see here. All right, borderline low, but it was very consistent. You played out there, Nick. How hard would it have been to shoot a 54, 54, 55, 26 under par?
You know, I'm going to be brutally honest. I attempted to play disc golf. I played a lot of disc golf this weekend. And I guess I went in with the mindset that the most disc golf wins because I was very close to doing that. To shoot the scores at any of those, top name players, 11 downs, 9 downs, 8 downs, whatever they shot, to do it in those crazy wins that the first 2 rounds had, it's absolutely wild. It was actually probably the most unenjoyable conditions I've ever played in. So when we always ask that question and judge that disc golf or what would I rather play in, I'm going to say torrential downpour 10 times out of 10 because playing in that wind was just not fun to me. So shout out to Nikko for actually being able to do that. And shooting 54, 54, 55, finishing 26 under par it's pretty wild. The last day was definitely the calmest of them all, but there were still little wind gusts.
Yeah. I think one of the other takeaways here is it was possibly going to be a runaway. Nikko was doing really well, did very well. But Cale LaVisca just pushing so hard and impressive with the play that he was doing to where about halfway through you said, it's not really a chance here. But then Nikko missed a few putts and Cale made a few moves. Next thing you know, there's a 2-stroke, swing, and you're like, okay, so there might be. And it goes all the way down to hole 17, just playing it out for people that watched it. You know what I'm talking about. Nikko, it's just like the kind of like what you might call like a peninsula style hole as far as how OB plays and the water plays to it. Nikko is significantly short on the basket, 70 feet plus, and Cale is pretty much inside 20 feet. If Nikko does not hit his putt, Cale most likely does, and they're tied going into 18. That is the battle that you want to see. Hole 18, what's the play? Do both people lay up and try to take a tie to the playoff? What do you think would have happened there?
No, I mean, it was insane because Nikko started out that round, I'm pretty sure, either 7 through 7 or 8 through 8. I can't 100% remember, but let's just say he started out 7 through 7. And at that point, I was looking at UDisc Live scoring, and I'd almost written it off like, oh, yep, Nikko's got this at the bag at this point. And then all of a sudden, you just see Cale's name keep creeping up. And then on hole 14, he had gained a stroke by hitting a nice outside the circle putt. Hole 15, he hit another outside the circle putt. And then he's down 1 at this point going into 17. Nikko throws kind of a shorter drive, but a decent position for a nice flick. Throws outside of circle 2. And so we were all kind of sitting there. We're like, okay, well, he's probably going to run it, but more than likely just put it underneath the basket. Cale looks like he's probably going to, get the birdie 3, and then it's tied going to 18. And then Nikko just does this crazy little spin / throw / putt all at once. It was nice and aggressive, and he played the headwind perfectly. It lifted it up at the perfect time. It was soft, and he drained it from probably about 70, 75 feet. So that right there was huge. That was easily the shot of Go ahead.
I was going to say one of the tells of him knowing where he was in the round was he celebrated in such a way that was telling more than just like hitting a big putt. He turned around and was fist pumping and saying, let's go, let's go. So like he knew there was some pressure here on the line, obviously watching how Kale played out. But it was interesting. I'll just kind of jump to it real quick. In his interview at the end, he alluded to the fact that there weren't very many people clapping for him when he did that on hole 17.
I was just about to bring that up. It was so hole 17, he threw his drive. They all landed inbounds, you know, pretty routine. And disc golf fans and disc golf players, I swear, we're kind of weird when it comes to like when people think they're allowed to clap or whatever. Like if anyone throws a shot inbounds, I'm clapping for it. If they put a shot anywhere near the basket, especially on 17, where your second shot is pretty hard to get to, you know, I'm gonna sit there and clap for it if you throw it inbounds, whether there's no wind or a ton of wind. But on Nikko's second shot, he threw it. We all knew it was inbounds, but he had put it to like 75 feet. And so I think because he wasn't in circle 2 or circle 1, people weren't as impressed, especially because there was no wind. So like I think like barely anyone clapped for him, which, you know, was kind of funny to me because I'm sitting there kind of like, you know, if everyone silently claps, not silently, but quietly claps, then it actually sounds like a lot of people clapping. And, you know, it just kind of felt like nothing. So Nikko walked by and he's like, you know, and here they are all silent. Like he's, you know, thinking in his head, no one wants to actually see him land in bounds. But then when he hit the massive putt in 17 or throw, I don't really know. I guess you kind of call it a throw in. But when he hit that, everyone cheered, everyone erupted. It was insane. It was an incredible shot, and it was an incredible moment in disc golf, an incredible moment in Nikko's career, and it was incredible that Kale matched it, you know, and he hit a nice 30-footer. He also hit a big putt, and so we were all cheering for that. Kale's shot, the reason a lot of people clap for it is because he did throw it. He threw it into circle 1, and, you know, I think, like I said, disc golfers are weird. Disc golf fans are weird right now. I think because of this whole COVID thing, no one knows when to clap. No one knows what it's like to be a spectator anymore at this point. It's just all weird.
Yeah, but I think what's interesting and as a takeaway here is that Nikko, well, just put any other player in his position. If people didn't clap when Kale did his approach, do you think in a victory speech that would have been a part of his conversation, of Kale's conversation? I don't think so. I don't think so. I'm speculating. But I think that this is part of Nikko's persona, if you will, and what the disc golf, I'll use the word community, but the disc golf fans are pressing very hard on this individual to where he has this fight or flight, and it's funny, he has a sponsor hat that says Flight Club. It seems so perfect.
I was like, I'm pretty sure I've seen that recently.
Flight Club. It seems so perfect for Nikko in the sense that like he is coming. He even says it like more or less like, if you hate me, and he said this in one of his like interviews, and I'm not quoting it perfectly, but if you hate me, then you better stop watching because I'm gonna win. I'm gonna keep playing. I'm gonna keep doing well. I have no shade to throw at the guy at all. I will bring up this topic now though. The chat rooms were on fire with time violation like calls. Like he's taking too long. He's taking way too long. It's 45 seconds. It's 50 seconds. It's a minute 15. It's 30. Like the rule is this, and just to clarify for everybody, there's enough, I don't want to say it's gray area, but there is enough gray area that it would be near impossible to call anybody. Now, the rules do say if somebody is taking excessive time, which would be more than, and I can actually kind of read it out to you here. If it's your turn, and I'm summarizing this, if it's your turn and you've had reasonable amount of time, reasonable is in quotation marks on my end. If you've had a reasonable amount of time to determine the lie and the playing area is clear and free of distractions, then you would need to putt within 30 seconds. Now, assuming it's your turn, okay? Assuming it's your turn, you're approaching your lie, you've determined where your lie is, but it says you've had a reasonable amount of time to determine it. So that's going to be discretionary. That's going to be on the TD or some official on what that is. So that's, first of all, just like a referee in NFL or anywhere else. Like, it's discretionary. It's like they get to choose if that's what it means or it doesn't mean, number one. And then the players are supposed to call it. But you know what that would mean to me? Unless I had a literal timer out as a player, there's no way I'm calling it. I could say I'm super sure it's more than 30 seconds, But when did that timer start? Like, when did you start that timer?
I'm pretty sure you're supposed to actually have I'm pretty sure in order to legitimately call someone on it, I'm pretty sure you actually have to have kind of like a stopwatch style thing going. I don't think you can really just count it out in your head. But yeah, I think the discretionary part of that is, when does that lie actually start? And I think
it's discretionary. What are you going to do?
One of the few times that you can really think, okay, I can start the clock here, is when, and I'll just use myself as an example. When I'm lining up a putt, it's pretty much when I step up behind my mini, I plant my feet, and I kind of do my little motion, my little jig, pre-shot, warm up, whatever. And then how long it takes for me to put it actually to the basket. I think upshots or drives or stuff like that, there's so many different ways you can kind of allude around it to where, if I'm throwing a shot and I'm looking at my second one, I'm probably not going to walk right up behind my mini and then line it up and then walk away and then go back and then walk away again. I think that's where, when do you actually start the clock? And, this is completely different, but like, I don't believe players should have to be the one to call.
Let's talk about
other
that
players on. Yeah.
Let's talk about that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So there's multiple things going on here. If we were to run a timer, and I can say that there have been people that have done this. I did a companion feed with Simon. And at one point during this companion feed, Simon goes, "Hey, can you pull up a timer?" And I was able to pull up a timer.
100%. Yeah.
And so the times that I pulled up the timer, it was very close. And if you gave benefit of the doubt to the player that, hey, they hadn't fully addressed their lie yet, they didn't feel like there was free of distractions, because that's all part of the rule, then the times that we pulled up the timer, he was okay. Now, I think if I'm being honest, there are times where it's pretty obvious as well that he is taking excessive time. But here's where your question comes in. Do the players, and I guess this is kind of a yes or no for you, Nick, just I'm interested in that.
Mm-hmm.
Do the players want to have that responsibility? Now,
no.
Okay. Now, I want to say that's too bad. In a lot of ways right now, that's too bad. That is their responsibility, number one.
I think it's too bad because it is their responsibility. Yes, I can agree with that, obviously.
Yeah, so we have, I wouldn't say quite a problem, because some people are going to say it's cut and dry. Well, it's the rules. It's too bad. If you don't like the rules, then go somewhere else. But there is a players committee, if you will. Mm-hmm. This could be addressed. I know Simon, he said it publicly on his companion feed, so I'll just reiterate it right now. Simon said, hey, I reached out to the PDGA and more or less asked them to clarify this and to answer the question, like, why are we in this position to do this? And Simon, I don't want to put words in his mouth for this one, but he was more or less like saying, it just makes for a bad vibe. And like, I'm probably never going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, shoot, even calling someone on a footfall creates a bad vibe. You kind of get looked at as the bad guy. And I want to shout out Zach Melton really quick. Zach Melton is super active on social medias, and actually especially Twitter. I've become more active on the disc golf Twitter lately, and someone straight up asked him and said, "Hey Zach, how do you feel about this?" Yada yada yada. And Zach Melton was like, "Look, it sucks having to call people on these kind of rules, because then you're perceived as the bad guy. Whether it's Jordan Castro calling Kevin Jones on a footfall, or Eric Oakley calling Paul McBeth on a footfall, or someone having to go up to Nikko during the round and say, "Hey man, you're taking way too long." And I think the only reason people complain that he's taking too long is because there's actually a rule that says, hey, you can only have 30 seconds. Like, what if that rule was you have a minute and 30 seconds to go up? Would you guys still complain that he's taking over 45 seconds? That's where the curiosity, because there was.
That's a great point.
I think it was either hole 15. He was putting on hole 15 from like 20, 25 feet probably. And I think, someone had pulled out a stop clock, and I think it was like 35 or 45 seconds. But his upshot on 17, when I would have said, hey, that's when you started lining that up, it took 45 seconds to a minute. And, obviously I'm just at this point an innocent bystander on the sideline. I'm not going up to him and being like, hey man, I got to call you on 45 seconds. I don't think that's the right thing. But in a perfect world, we would have an official on every single scorecard, every single, tournament card, someone who is a scoring official as well as a rules official. And I think that would turn into where a player does not have to do the UDisc live scoring, because honestly, I think that's one of the worst things that a player should have to focus on during their tournament is having to do live scoring either during the hole or at the end of a hole. I think, volunteer. Obviously, we're in a different year right now. There's a pandemic going on. I understand that. Volunteers, you can't have too many people at a certain place. I understand that before I get roasted in the chat. But
and the logistics are really tough on that.
Yeah.
It's a great idea.
But I think for one thing that might be kind of something that happens in the future, which I don't want it to because I think it's unfair, but I'm curious what other people think of it, is if, say we have Jomez Pro, we have the DGPT live, so the Disc Golf Network live cameras, but then we have Gatekeeper and let's just say like GK Pro filming MPO, FPO cards 1, 2, and 3. For those specific cards, especially the live network, so let's say the lead card going into the final round, do you have, let's just say Jeff Spring goes out and makes sure he watches the final round no matter what. Do you have that person who, do you make Jeff Spring the all-time person who is allowed to call people on foot faults? And, do you make him an official? I'm saying Jeff Spring as an example because he's the CEO, but I'm saying, like, do you have someone in specific every single lead card,
it's just tough
out there?
The conversation comes up because that's lead card, and it would be a disadvantage, if you will,
I think
to
it's
the
a
others.
disadvantage for the lead card because now no other card is having to deal with that. But I do think eventually disc golf is going to have to get to a point to where players shouldn't have to be moderators.
Okay, so we can agree on that. I actually like that. Whether or not, some people are going to be literal in their argument here and say it is what it is. And so let me clarify. It is the rules. And so it's sore luck, like too bad for the pros who don't like it if they feel like it's a violation. In fact, it would be interesting to pull those 3 players who are playing with Nikko and say, do you feel like he was breaking the rules or pressing his limits? Do you feel like he was violating what the rules say? And if if all of them said yes, which I feel like that would be pretty safe to assume, then what we have here is a problem where the PDGA now is going to have to, or they should react to this and say, hey, players, it could go one of 2 ways. Players, we're observing clear violations during the live feed. And you guys are not calling it. And then the players would have to say, yeah, because we don't like that rule. And so it needs to be adjusted. Well, at least then you'll have people come to the table and say it needs to be fixed. But here's where I'm going with this, is that it doesn't come off looking good for the governing body. Like, it does not come off looking good, I'll say, for the sport, but for the PDGA. It makes it almost a joke. Because it's a rule. The players are supposed to call it. They're not calling it because they think it's a stupid rule. So who's really the governing body here? The players or the PDGA? Like, that's kind of where I'm at.
I agree with you 100% on it, and it sucks because the only time that a player is going to get kind of like scrutiny for that is when they're on the live coverage and you're like, hey, why isn't Matt Graham calling Nick Carl on a 30-second violation? But if you and I were playing on the last card together, neither of us would probably care if you were taking 35, 40 seconds per
Actually,
shot.
You and I would just call each other back and forth.
We probably would, just for fun.
No, but here's...
to me personally, I remember a tournament that I played years ago. I started out the first round, I did pretty well. The second round, I was playing with a bunch of, low-key touring players. And I remember one of them was a very, very slow player. And probably the slowest player that I've actually ever played with. And it definitely took a while. And it was hard for me because I had started out the round well. And then I remember I had one very bad hole and my mindset kind of got shot from that. And then instead of being top of the box like I was for the first 4 holes, now I've got this player in front of me who takes the full 30 seconds. Meanwhile, I'm sitting back there. I'm like, dude, I'm ready to throw. Like, you just missed a perfect wind opportunity. Like, why are you taking so long? So for me, I feel like, hey, I'd be hella frustrated when it came to that. But at the same time, do I care enough to sit there with a stop clock or like a stopwatch or whatever? That's the tough part. And 30 seconds, it really is a long time. when you actually sit there with the stopwatch, 30 seconds is a long time. I don't think I could ever line up a putt for 30 seconds unless it was the most obstructed putt and I really needed to find my footing. But like actually standing there on a 30-footer wide open, and I've seen people line it up for 25 seconds. I don't know how you do it, but.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a clock right now. I'm going to keep talking, but I'm going to start a clock right now, and I'm going to tell you when 30 seconds is up. So as part of the conversation, is it according to the rules? Is there time violation? Yes. Again, I'll just reiterate, pros don't want it to be a rule, it seems like. And so what would we go to? It should be, I think, play it by pace of play. Go to more of the golf structure. Pace of play, if it's too slow as in cards are running into you, then you need to step up the pace. And that's where the courtesy could come in. So after saying all of that, did I have enough time to line up my putt? That's 30 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't think pros really necessarily want it to change when it comes to like 30 seconds, 45 seconds, or a minute. I think they really just don't want to be the people to have to call their card mates on the rule. Because there are times where, shoot, if you actually have to take the full 30 seconds, if you're obstructed in the woods or whatever, by all means, do your thing. If you're trying to wait 15 seconds for potentially the wind to die down, I don't think that's an issue at all. I think the issue is the players having to be the ones to pretty much be the bad guy in that sense.
Yeah, but which one, and this is why I say what I said, which one is more likely to happen quicker? The PDGA to get officials or the Disc Golf Pro to get officials on every single card at the event, or
they would up the time.
Or I was going to say, or change it. I think as far as that's concerned, it would not be that hard to say pace of play. Now, in the grand scheme of things, is this topic even a big deal as far as like competitive play? No, absolutely not. Like this has nothing to do with it. Does it have to do with the rules and the PDGA's, enforcement of them? Yes, it looks funny for the sport. Those are separate things. No player is feeling like there's an unfair advantage being had, at least the ones that I've heard. If there are, they should speak up. So that's really on that. And then just to wrap up the Nikko talk, I wasn't totally far, like way out there when I said I think he got injured and didn't want anybody to know about it for the All-Star weekend when he dropped out. And that's what happened. He's live on Disc Golf Network saying that he injured his hand after punching a punching bag, hanging out with some friends. He was very, very quick to follow up after he said he punched something, that it's not because I was angry. That is another tell to me that he is very, very aware and fueled, if you will, by people's opinions of him and the hate. And unfortunately, it's fueling itself like gasoline and fire. It's like the more he talks about it or acts on it, the more the haters want to keep bringing it. It's just going to keep cycling. So that was interesting.
Yeah, that's actually the first time that I'm seeing that, because I didn't watch any of the post-round interviews, winner speeches, or anything like that yet.
He showed his hand. He showed his hand to the camera, and his knuckles like pushing out.
Yeah, if you don't punch a punching bag correctly or anything correctly, like you can really, screw up your wrist, your hand, or anything like that. I mean, look at what happened to Eagle back in 2019.
Yeah.
Look what happened to Tristan Tanner recently. I mean, you hit something the wrong way, and it's not good for your hand. So kudos to him for stepping up, and pretty much not stepping up, but just telling people, kind of silencing what's going on. But
yeah, you could tell he was a little apprehensive when asked, like more or less like, hey, like what happened? I don't remember how the question was posed, but he was a little apprehensive to answer. And he finally was just kind of like, and he kind of said it. And that's when he's like, quick. Oh no, it's not like I wasn't angry. Like it was interesting, but he played and he showed his knuckles were messed up. So I don't know if he said he was fully in pain, but his grip is a little weird, but he obviously fought through it. And that's what he talked about. And congratulations to him.
Yeah.
Next topic before we're getting ready to wind down here, but next topic is FPO, just in general, Nick. Do you feel the same as me? Like, first of all, great things, Kona winning. But do you feel like, I don't want to say parity, because obviously we've had really close battle with Katrina. Paige has been pretty dominant, and then Kona's pretty dominant. We've seen some different things. But like, how much better in your mindset, and at least in mine, would be having the Europeans over here during all of this to see what would go down with like Henna, with Evelina, with Kristen Tatar.
Yeah, I mean, shoot, you're talking about the third and fourth highest rated players in the world. They're actually technically tied for second. Henna and Evelina, they're all at 966 right now for their rating. Evelina won Waco last year.
Yeah.
And then I remember Henna and Evelina both did very well at Memorial last year. So, I mean, obviously, and Kristen Tatar won U.S. Women's CGC back in 2019. I mean, having these European players over just brings over this whole new element to the game to where you have such a different style of play. You have such a different style of person. And from what I see, I follow Kristen on Instagram, and her and Silver, they're out playing almost every single day. They're taking care of their bodies by doing ice baths. They're meditating, they're doing saunas and everything like that, to where they're legitimately prepping their body for hopefully the future chance of being able to compete back once again in the USA. And hopefully once again, with American players going over to Europe to play for the European Open and the Sula Open. We don't even have word on that yet. But yeah, when it comes to the FBO division, I love the difference of names that we're seeing. Las Vegas, you had Paige Pierce and Katrina running away with it. Paige Pierce ultimately coming out on top. Memorial, which was, I would say, the second. Oh, let's go back to the All-Star weekend. Obviously, Kona won that. And then Paige Pierce at Las Vegas. And then Memorial, you had a little bit smaller of a field, but you still had a very competitive one with Owen Scoggins taking that one down. Haley King coming in second. And then now the Waco, you had Kona winning it by a commanding margin. And then I think you had Lisa and Sarah Hokum right there. Owen Scoggins and Sarah Hokum right there in the mix of things. So it's cool. We're seeing a whole, I would say, different view of FPO players now. It's not just consistently the Paige, Kat, and Sarah. But we're starting to see newer players jump up.
Yeah, but that's kind of my point is, like, imagine what it would be like with the Europeans. And yeah. I bunched them all together. What would it be like?
Yeah, we always say that. We always say, how dominant the Europeans are, which clearly they have been. And we wouldn't be talking about it if they haven't been. But I'm curious, you can see all the work Kona's done in the offseason. You can see work that a lot of these players have done. And obviously, Paige's rating, it doesn't lie.
I'm not suggesting that they come over and they're dominant. I guess I'm saying imagine the close battles that would just be going on at a more higher level. It wouldn't just be the top two or I'm not actually underplaying at all. I'm not even underplaying that Kona would have destroyed every European out there that weekend. I think she did something that the whole average of the field
was incredible.
Couldn't do. So, like, I think Kona wins regardless, but I'm just saying, like, I just want to see that. And that brings me to this point of what has happened. And we don't have to talk long about this, but what's happened to Haley King? What's happened to Heather Young? What's happened to Sarah Hokum? What's happened to, and I don't need to list everybody's names.
You can keep going on. I think, Haley, you got to remember, we're two tournaments into the big season right now. This is only the second Pro Tour event. I think players are still getting off that initial rust. Haley, said it. She didn't play too many rounds over the offseason. She's from Wisconsin. It's definitely not somewhere where you can play every single day during the wintertime. She's also dealing with an injury. I forget if she said it was an ankle or an elbow.
She mentioned an ankle in a social post that she's dealing with. Interesting for her to mention that because she says she's playing through it.
Yeah.
But
so potentially that's obviously, whether someone talks about the injury or not, it's obviously hindering them in some sort of way.
Yes.
Heather, I'm not really sure. Heather, we got courses right now, especially like Vegas and Memorial. Those were long courses, not really her style. I expected kind of a little bit more here at Waco, but I'll kind of give her a break on this one.
Okay, you're giving her a break. I'm saying, like I've asked for Ezra, like was she overrated? As a player,
I give a lot of people a break this last tournament in the sense of they played stupid amounts of wind. Yeah. It was just, like I said, for me personally, it was unenjoyable. I know no one cares about my horrible finish, but playing out there, it was just, it was boring. And these are obviously professionals. They should know how to play in this kind of wind and everything, but it was just
it was hard. and I was going to ask you that originally, like what was going on, because the whole story is like, look at Eagle McMahon, for instance, highest rated player in the world, shooting, what was it, 47th last cash, like.
Just literally had to shoot an 8 down the final round to get last cash.
If you haven't checked, UDisc or scores, and you're listening to this right now, just take a mental guess. If you've already know, it's obviously a pointless question, but where do you think Paul placed? And my initial reaction, without fully looking, was that he placed somewhere 10th or worse, but he finished
in all actuality
5th place.
Yep.
Which is, again, but the point, and Ricky finished in 11th, and Ezra finished in 25th or whatever it was. Like, there's Greg Barsby, like 78th, Dave Felberg, like 80th. Yeah. Like, there's names that are, I should pull up the whole list here. I'm stuttering because, like, there were so many good players that did not perform well. So you're not
Terry Roethlisberger, Ben Callaway, Marky Chapp, even from Massachusetts. Like, there's a lot of players who Casey White missed cash by 1 stroke.
Yeah, Brody Smith was right in that 47th. I think that was last cash.
Brody Smith got last cash, and he made a very ballsy shot on hole 18.
Yeah, I saw that.
The final day, we didn't have too much wind. There definitely was some wind out there. But he just threw a perfect nuke shot over the water. It was awesome. And so for him to jump up and get that birdie on the final hole, make that last cash, obviously that's a great thing. He's disappointed about his weekend, no doubt. And I know a ton of players are. There was very few players who I was actually able to talk to and say, like, hey, man, how'd your weekend go? And they were like, oh, yeah, it went totally fine. Like, most of these players were like, dude, that was awful. I never want to come back.
Are we going to see social media posts from our top players in either division? I don't want to use the word apologizing to fans, but are we going to see posts, and I'm not making a prediction, but where they say, hey guys, because people do tournament recaps, and I think there's something to be said for Eagle, for Paige, for Katrina. I think there's something to be said for players like that. We already saw Haley King make a post. She said that mental game right now is not strong, and she's dealing with stuff off the course. So, as in, like, there's stuff happening that's in her mental game while she's playing that's happening off the course. So, are we going to see more players talk about Waco, or are they just going to be silent and be like, yeah, that was just what it was?
To be honest, I think we're going to see, obviously, the traditional post-tournament posts that a lot of players are doing. And I think we're going to see some excuses. We're going to see some blame on the course and everything like that. Ultimately, it was a tough weekend for a lot of people. Congratulations to the people who did do well. That was an incredible feat this last weekend. It's funny. I remember playing Waco last year, and obviously it was cut short due to COVID really ramping up. And I remember actually loving that place. And then this year I went back to it. Practice rounds were all super windy, so I was like, all right, this kind of sucks, but like, I feel like this is still my style of course. And then going into it, just every single tournament round, just mentally feeling defeated with how the conditions were and how I was playing in general. My putting felt totally fine, which was a big confidence boost. Backhands didn't feel great. Forehands felt, my forehand this year has felt better than it ever has. I was just not getting off the tee and everything like that. So for me, I can blame the course, I can blame the wind, but ultimately it rolls back down to me. But I think a lot of players, and I hope a lot of players in the future, instead of putting blame on the course or the wind or stuff like that, just say, hey, this is something I got to work on. I was talking with Seth Muncie about that, to where when you're doing tournament preparations, if I know I have to throw a lot of buzzes and a lot of putters throughout the woods, I need to go out to a field and practice those said things. And if I don't practice that, why am I mad at myself when I screwed up the buzz shot? So yeah, I think honestly though, we're going to see a lot of pros come out with their post-tournament traditional posts that say, hey, I did awful, but hey, thanks for the support. Go buy my.
I wonder. Yeah, I'm just curious what if they provide any insight into why they felt like they performed poorly. We obviously know the conditions were there. I think eventually we should start a Brody tracker on our show and track like his performances. I think we kind of have already done that a little bit because it's just
for the most part,
it's intriguing. I did listen to an interview. Shout out to Running It with Nate Sexton. Jarrett Orr's the co-host over there, actually the producer of the show with Nate. And they had Brody on recently, and Brody said this year is kind of, I don't want to say a practice year, but an experience year. And he says he's going to be looking for the W's, is how he put it, in 2022. First of all, that's a pretty bold claim to be looking for the W's. That being said, you have to do that as a competitor. But that right there would totally burn my hot take. If he does that, I said I don't think he'll ever finish in the top 3 at a Pro Tour event. I hope he makes me eat my words. I do support him and his competitive efforts. I just think that's going to be a major milestone. A few other points, Nick, before we close out. Paige Pierce, big time moment, Sports Illustrated. Congratulations to her. What a dominant, mover in the FPO side of the sport. Congrats to her. Imagine that moment being featured in such a major headline illustration. And then finally, I just want to shout out one more time, the Disc Golf Network. I think I've said it almost every single show. It is continuing to get better. Let me just be clear, commentators aside, because you cannot find a commentator that everybody likes. You cannot do it.
Exactly.
So that aside, looking at the network feed and what they're doing, they're showing more plays than ever. Nick, they're doing what golf does. While somebody is walking to their next shot, they said, over here on hole 15, just a few minutes ago, here's what happened. And they literally show how it's playing out, like perfectly, seamlessly. And it feels like you're actually moving around the course, seeing what's happening live all around the course. Like you're not missing anything is what it feels like. It's amazing. So
very cool. I was actually, when I was going through our show notes and everything, I was curious at what the Disc Golf Network has been doing so well, because for the last two and the first two, I should say, Disc Golf Pro Tour events, I've actually been there live in person. So I've been watching, after I finish my round and after I finish, keeping up with Paul and Brody's round and all my good buddies, we've all been watching the FPO coverage and I've been very much enjoying it. But at times it's like I'm watching my phone when the women are only 100 feet away from me. So sometimes I go out and actually watch them live in person. So I haven't actually noticed the incredible things that they're doing. But now that I am home and here, I'm assuming that Belton, being a Silver Series event, is going to be on the Disc Golf Network, right?
I think so. And
I would assume so. I could be wrong, though.
I will say this again. I did the companion feed with Simon, and we ordered pizza because it was like a 4-hour show, and Simon's on camera. And what happened was he's waiting to go eat the pizza when an advertisement comes on. And just to throw it out there, again, they figured out how to do very minimal actual like commercial breaks to where Simon keeps going, where's the commercial break? I'm so hungry. Like I want to eat the pizza. And I feel like there weren't that many. It's come so far from that very large cry in the very beginning of the year at All Stars. It wasn't awesome, but they've come so far so quick. It's just, I can't say enough good about it. Congrats to them over there. Mo, Johnny V, Terry Miller, Jamie Thomas. Obviously, Jeff Spring is in charge of a lot of that as well. So,
yeah, it's seeing all them work live in person is it's pretty incredible, and it's a very thankless job. One small thing, and you're gonna piss off 10 different pros. It is what it is. But they really are doing a ton of work out there. They're working very well with the tournament directors and getting everything set up for the courses. I tip my hats to them. I've enjoyed the 2 tournaments that I've played. I had an absolute blast at Vegas, and I don't think I had a single complaint. Waco, my only complaint was, the windometer, whoever turned up the wind. I hate you. But tournament-wise, believe me, I enjoy that course a lot. It was fun to go to. But I have kind of a cool highlight story.
All right, go ahead.
Only take like 30 seconds, but obviously, I'll reiterate it. I had very lackluster play this weekend. It is what it is. But I did get to meet actually someone who I've looked up to in the disc golf world, coming back way in the beginning, 2013, 2014 Vibram Open. And this is Jay Yeti Redding. And I just think it's cool every single time someone sees him. They all make the, Chewbacca sounds, the Yeti sounds, and everything like that. It's awesome. And I was walking by we were watching Kale and Nikko battle it out in the last few holes, and he kind of took down his mask and he was like, you know, I think he said, "Is that Nick Carl or is that Nicholas?" He said something like that, and I was kind of like blown away for a second that, you know, this Hall of Famer disc golfer knew who I was. It was pretty incredible. I got to talk with him for a few minutes, and him and his wife have been doing incredible things, you know, for so long in the sport of disc golf when it comes to growing it with the Edge program and just themselves in general. So shout out to Yeti. You made my day. You made my weekend. I really appreciate it. And yeah.
1,000+ rated guy there. So awesome.
Yeah,
what he
absolutely.
does with Edge, educational disc golf experience. Totally cool. That's awesome moment, Nick. Yeah. So I want to do this closeout here where I just mentioned, if you've made it this far, if you've made it this far and you're listening, it's not that big of a deal. But now you're going to get brought into the inner circle.
Yeah.
If you've made it this far, thank you very much. Nick's internet has been absolutely trash. Like, Nick, if you watch this back, you were frozen for 90% of all of this. Like, it's just like,
sorry about this.
But here's the point. If people are enjoying the talk and you've made it this far, thank you. Number two, this was really weird not doing it live. We appreciate our live listeners so much. Like, it changes the vibe of the show. So please come back after you listen this far to the end. And next week, when I don't know what happened, I'm going to do a lot of tests and figure out what's going on. But I will say, thirdly, Nick is moving into, well, he's not moving his sleep location, but he's moving the studio, officially going to be in the same studio location. Yeah, see, you're frozen there, Nick.
Yeah, no, I keep seeing it. Believe me, I see it on my end, which is funny because like we were Skyping last week before we went out in the RV, and it was fine. And then even tonight, it started out fine. Who knows what's going on? But I want to once again apologize.
We're going
to
into studio, is my point.
Yeah, exactly. I will actually tomorrow be heading down to Foundation to figure everything out with them. Get things set up.
Keep me in the loop with that, because I would like to do these tests to figure out what's happening and to make sure we're on the same page and good with it. But everybody, we've made it this far. Even though Nick's frozen 90% of the time tonight, we can still hear him.
Yeah.
And so
as long as you can hear me, you know, I'm pretty happy with that. I've had an allergy attack all day today. My left eye feels lazy right now because it's so tired. But no, seriously, it's funny, Matt earlier in the episode was saying to me that people were complaining that our last couple of shows were pretty short.
Yeah.
And that's funny because people in the past have complained that our shows are too long. So hopefully this was a nice happy medium. I'm super excited to be back on the podcast grind, and I'm beyond excited to be in a place where there's good internet, good video quality, and everything like that. I'm very excited for that.
All right, everybody, we've gotten to that point of the show. We're going to close it out. Thank you guys very much. Nick, take it away.
Thank you very much. Please don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, hit the thumbs up button, hit the post notifications button, go to the Foundation Disc Golf Podcast, or excuse me, the Foundation Podcast Network on YouTube, and then check us out on all your favorite podcast platforms. Yeah. Tell someone you love them this week. We'll catch you in the next one.
Nick, you're awesome. Peace out, everybody.
Right back at you. Peace.
The Nick and Matt Show, a disc golf podcast designed for you, the disc golfer. Find the Nick and Matt Show on your favorite podcast platforms or stream us live exclusively on the Foundation Podcast's YouTube channel.